one is thinking about how the body is responding. We're working around the core area, which is our powerhouse area. So between sort of our pubic bone and our belly button. And we're aiming to make all of these movements focused around our core. So we build that internal strength. And with our yoga, we're thinking more about being a bit more free, listening to the body, not worrying too much if it doesn't look like what the person next to you is doing. Okay, so that's where I would like you to be. Right, so set your heels. We're thinking about our pelvic alignment. So we can all visualize what a pelvis looks like. And we're just going to think about that pelvic bowl as we tip the tailbone under. So we push the pubic bone forwards and then we go back. So try and imagine that you have a full bucket of water, and we're going to tip out the back, okay, and then out the front. And see how your body's responding. Start to think about how the feet are pushing down into the floor, trying to grow as tall as you can up to the sky. So we're taking the pelvis into an anterior and posterior tilt. Now see if you can keep the upper body nice and still as you do this. Okay, so we're working on just that core as we tuck. And then find the position in the middle where you think that water isn't going to tip out the front or out the back. Then we're going to lift up all 10 toes, grow tall to the ceiling, and reach the arms up. Sink the weight into your heels and see if you can lift your arches. And inhaling, and as you exhale, I want you to draw your navel to your spine without changing your posture. We'll exhale, take the hands behind us and interlink them behind your back. Push the 10 toes down to the mat and push your chest up. So push your chest up and forwards and try and tuck your tailbone now. And we're going to look forwards, not up. Okay, so forwards, not up. Imagine you have a really long string onto the top of your crown of head. Release the hands. We're going to round the back, tuck your pelvis under now. We're going to stretch and give ourselves a hug. We're going to round and squeeze that tailbone under, bending the knees, making sure we're not hyperextending through the knees, and pull those shoulder blades apart now. Can you tuck your chin and bring your nose through the hole? And keep tucking, stretching, pulling that navel all the way in. And then bending the knees heavier, we're going to roll up, and then stretch the arms up into a wide position, into a Y shape, and stretch those fingers out. Give them a big reach. Going to do the same, but cross the arms the other way. So bend the knees, we're tuck, cross the arms the other way. And just hug, stretch out through the back, tucking that tailbone under. So we're trying to flatten out through the low back. We're squeezing the glutes, we're pushing the weight into the heels. Then release, come up. We're going to stretch those arms up nice and wide. Your choice to have your hands on your hips, or we're going to reach up and over to one side. Big stretch. Okay, if it doesn't feel good, don't go quite as far. If you get any tweaks in your back, have a hand on the hip. Sweeping the hand around to the front and inhaling, reaching up the other side. Reach and stretch. How long can you make that top hand? Make the length from your rib cage to your fingers nice and long. We come down and round again. Sweeping up. Stretch. Just opening up through that side body. Pushing the opposite heel now into the floor and seeing if you can let that hip come out to the side, increasing the stretch. We're going to look up to the arm crease. Move the hips, come round the other side and stretch. Push the hip out to the side. See how big you can make the window space between the ear and the bicep, and pushing that hip out, sinking the weight into the heel, looking up to that elbow crease. Swinging that arm round, this time bending your knees and letting your chest come down to your thighs. So we sink the weight into our heels. Yeah, heavy bend into your knees. If you feel you need a block, go and grab a block. Yeah, putting your fingertips on the block will help you. We're looking for our tailbone to be nice and high. Bend your knees as much as you need to. And rock that weight forwards and backwards, bringing your belly button up to your spine, and we're looking for a straight back. If your fingers don't want to touch the floor, use your fingers onto your thighs. Come up higher. Then squeeze your bottom cheeks together, pull that belly button in and reach up. So a nice straight back as we lift up, and we're going to stretch up. Taking your hands down to your sides and nodding your chin, rolling down this time. So I'd like you to imagine that your spine is just going to roll down one vertebrae at a time. Any sensations of uncomfortable feeling in your back, stop. Curling down, we're pulling our tummy button all the way to the ceiling, trying to round our back. Feeling that little bit of warmth into the backs of our legs, keeping our knees bent. And then tucking that tailbone as we breathe out, imagining that we're a puppet on a string as we roll all the way up. Thinking about that pelvic bowl, and inhale to reach those arms up, stretching out through both sides. Do the same thing again. So this is our Pilates roll down. Okay, exhale, tuck that chin, curling over, rounding your spine, rounding your spine. Softness in the knees, making sure that we're not hyperextending through the knees. This time our tailbone's tucked, but we have no pressure onto our lumbar spine, so the low part of our back should not feel uncomfortable. If it does, you'd keep the movement much smaller. We use and we squeeze the bottom muscles and we pull up as though we're a puppet on a string, keeping those knees bent as we exhale and roll everything up, stacking to that neutral position once again. Inhale as we reach our arms up wide. One more as we transition ourselves down to the mat. So exhale, rolling down, feeling the length between every single vertebrae, rolling down, heavy bend through the knees, placing the hands down and beginning to walk yourself out, tucking your toes and coming down to a 4-point base. Now, if anyone is going to struggle here with their knees, please roll their mat over a couple of times on the side. Yeah. Okay, so from there's always, you always have your bum in someone's face, so you know. Right, so from our tabletop position, we're going to cat cow through our spine, so tucking your pelvis as you pull and round up through your back. We're looking towards our pubic bone, our belly button, or between our thighs. Try and relax the shoulders and pull them away from the ears. And imagine that you're pulling the heels of the hands to the knees as well. Then we inhale, looking forwards and up, spiraling those elbows as we arch through the back. Try and look forwards and up rather than up. Spiral those elbows around to the front. One more each way, so exhale, round, and inhale, arch. Find a position halfway between the both in that neutral position, keeping the balance and sliding one foot away behind you. Try and imagine that you have a tray of, let's go gin. Yeah, on your back. Okay, and then bring that knee in. We want to be as controlled as we can. Slide the other side across. Try not to shift the hips. Keep the belly button drawn in nice and tight. We exhale as we move the leg. If that feels okay, we're taking the leg back. We're lifting the leg. We're making sure that when we lift that leg, we're going to squeeze that bottom cheek and our hips are going to stay nice and neutral. Pausing with that leg behind us, we're going to lift the heel up to our bottom. Flex the foot. We go 1 as we kick the ceiling. 2 as we kick the ceiling. Keep the body still. 3, 4. Breathe out as you kick. 5, 6, try and keep those hips level, 7 and 8. Bring the knee down to the mat. Take the knee now out to the side. Try not to shift the weight. We go 8, flex the foot. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, it's almost over, 2, 1. Take that leg, hold it out behind you. See if you can reach the opposite arm away. And we're going to hold for 8, 7, 6, keep as still as you can, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release, keeping the toes tucked, pushing your bottom backwards and stretching your hands away into modified child's pose. So walking away, pushing that tailbone back towards your heels. So we can do the other side. Finding that slide through the leg, coming back up to that tabletop position and lifting the leg. We flex the foot up to the ceiling and then we go 8. Keep that pelvis nice and still. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bringing the knee out to the side. We go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Taking the leg behind you, reaching that opposite arm away, creating that length. We hold this isometric hold, try and stay as still as you can. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good stuff. Keep those toes tucked, take the bottom back, walk and stretch through the tops of the feet, bringing that flexion into the toes, tucking those toes, walking the fingers away from you. And just breathing here for a couple of breaths. Spreading your hands very wide onto the mat now. So thinking of, really creating a good space with the base of your hands and pulling your wrists in. So trying to feel that you're engaging, pulling your wrists in underneath your armpits so you can activate your back muscles. Keeping your navel pulled in, we're going to think about hovering those knees off the mat. So this may not agree for a lot of people, okay? So if it doesn't, pull in, engage the belly button, and just see if you can imagine that there's a millimeter space between the knees. Pop the knees down, and we do the same thing again. So we inhale to prepare, we'll pull those arms back, and we'll exhale, just see if you can hover those knees. You're pushing into the base of the big toe, core nice and tight. Coming down, this time we push all the way up to down dog. So we exhale, hover those knees, we take the hips high. If you need to keep the knees down, please keep the knees down. In our down dog, we're looking for wrists, shoulders, tailbone, all in a straight line. Come down and bring your knees back to the floor. Now, if you have no idea what a down dog is, please have another look. Yeah. So I'm going to pull in, I'm going to send my tailbone high and bring my head through. I'm pushing and I'm spiraling my arms in, and only if my feet come to the floor do I take my feet to the floor, but I'd much rather you be here, okay, than here. So we really want that spine nice and straight. Only the heels come to floor if that feels okay. And if you don't want to lift high, you just stay in that kneeling position. So wherever you are with that, we're going to walk the heel one way and the other way, just pushing the hips from side to side, walking that dog, pushing through your wrists, spreading through the fingers. So we have all 10 fingers really working at keeping that control. We come in, we walk and we step to the front edge of our mat. Take your feet as wide as you need to, keeping your hands down and bending your knees, hugging your elbows, just letting your head hang. We then tuck our tailbone and we roll ourselves all the way up. Find that standing position once again. So I'm going to take you through a set of, it's called sun salutes. So this will be familiar for some of you. We're just going to do sun salute A. Okay. So I'm going to do it really nice and slowly. And down dog is probably going to be the biggest challenge. Okay. So we're inhale as we reach our arms up. And then as we exhale, we're going to sweep those arms wide and we're going to push our bottom back, keeping the legs nice and straight, pulling that tummy in, making sure there's a tiny bend into the knees. And then sinking the knees heavily as the chest comes down to the thighs. So we've already been here. Bending those knees as much as you need to. There should be no pressure on the back. Sinking the heels into the floor. We inhale as we come up, we straighten those legs without locking the knees, and we either bring the hands onto our thighs, our shins, or to floor, but we're looking for a straight back. Okay, so tailbone should be high. Wherever that needs to be, just make sure you don't put pressure on your knees. We'll let the hands come down to the floor as we bend our knees, and you're going to take a big step back with one leg. Okay, just adjust wherever you need to, and the second leg, bringing your knees to the mat. So however you get there is totally fine. We come forwards now. So we let our weight come forwards, we push, we keep our glutes nice and squeezed, and then we roll ourselves down to the mat, lowering ourselves, keeping our elbows in really nice and tight. Untuck your toes, lengthen your legs. So actually lengthen your legs away from you. Push the tops of the feet into the mat, squeezing your bottom, and inhale, support yourself with your hands, pull your navel to your spine and create length, and lift your shoulders, and just looking forwards to the front of your mat. Supporting yourself with your hands or feeling stronger and just making the lightness from those fingers. Tuck the toes so you're onto the balls of the feet, and then begin to push your knees into the mat. Push yourself nice and slowly through your knees as we come back to that down dog position. If you want to stay on your knees, please stay on your knees. We walk ourselves to the front of our mat, staying as low as we can. Finding that flat back position. So remembering that that flat back position is the one where you have the choice of having your hands on your thighs. Belly button really pulled in nice and tight. We exhale as we fold down. And we inhale as we reach all the way up. So that is one round of sun salute A. We're going to come down to the mat now. So exhale to fold. We're going to lie on our back. So however you get there, if you're able to cross one foot behind the other and lower yourself down into that cross leg position, transition down onto your back. Otherwise, just get there. Okay, just get there. Yeah. Finding our semi-supine position. We want to think about that bucket of water once again, as we think about if that bucket is tipping water out the front or out the back. So we're looking for a neutral pelvis here. Have your hands down. So we're going to open our shoulders, broaden our collarbones. Still think about length through tailbone and crown of head. See if you can have your 10 toes so they are parallel, hip distance apart with the feet and knees. So everything's nice and aligned in that box. We're going to inhale to prepare. As we exhale, we'll push the low back into the mat. So we use our tummy muscles and feel like we're pulling away from something as we push our low back into the mat, using our core strength as we do that. We inhale as we come to that neutral position again. So when we're in neutral, we should have a space between our low back and the mat. Our rib cage should be down. We'll exhale, tuck and push that low back down into the mat. Inhale to release. I'd like you to try and do this without squeezing your bottom. Okay, so we're really going to think about not squeezing our bottom to perform this pelvic tilt. So we will inhale, draw the navel down, and exhale, try and draw up through pelvic floor. So for ease of explanation, stop yourself from farting. Okay, there we go. It's just easy. And then coming back. So exhale. Try and see how big you can make that pelvic tilt without recruiting your bottom muscles. Finding neutral. This time we exhale and think more about stopping yourself from passing wind and having a wee. Okay, same for men and women. Just drawing in and up. Still try not to engage those glute muscles. This time as we exhale, hold down, then squeeze your bottom muscles and start to roll your spine up. So you're lifting your hips up to the ceiling. We're going to roll the hips up, vertebrae by vertebrae, not worrying about how high the hips actually rise. But if the hips do rise all the way up, we want a nice straight line between knees, hips. The rib cage isn't going to flare. And then as we take a breath out, we control how that spine will find the mat. I would like you to try and imagine that each spinal vertebrae is touching the mat one at a time. And you finish with that neutral position. We inhale as we exhale, tucking up again, getting the pelvic floor to work before the glutes, coming up to that high point. And I'm going to start to add on for you, so you choose the level that you wish to go to. Keep that spine undulating up and down to the mat, making sure that those hips are completely level. So when you come up, we're not wobbling, we're keeping that stability. We're going to hold at the top this time. Remember, this is your choice to add on. Squeezing the glutes, tucking the tailbone now, and reaching those arms up over the head. We hover the wrists off the mat. We keep the rib cage pulled in really tight. Glutes are really squeezing on. We hold this position or keep floating the arms. As we exhale, we're going to lift up through one heel. Keep those hips nice and stable. Placing the heel down, lifting up through the other heel. We shouldn't be able to see that there's movement rocking from side to side. If it's too much, you keep your hands down onto the mat beside you. See if then you can begin to move through with the pauses with the heels up. So both heels will be up. Do not let those hips drop. Reach those hands further away from your knees, stretching out, opening up that all front line of your body. Keep exchanging from glute to glute. So one side and the other side. Before we float those arms back down, place the heels down, roll your spine down to the mat. Roll, 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 and bring your knees into your chest. Hugging your knees in nice and tight, keeping head to floor or nose to knees. And having a rock from side to side, doing some small circles. Just releasing that tension into your back. Placing your feet down onto the floor and finding that neutral position with pelvis. Can I just quickly check, is everyone's back's okay? Nobody has any sensations in their back from those bridges? Please say if you do. Okay. Okay, so this time, I'd like you to imagine that there's a string onto your sternum. Now, our goal here is to keep our pelvis as still as we can. So last time I got you to push your low back down into the mat. This time we're going to create that space and keep it. String onto your sternum. We inhale to prepare and we exhale. We draw that diamond shape in from our hips. So imagine that your belly button, your pubic bone is going to be pulled together and your hip bones will be pulling together. As you exhale, just see if you can think about a string lifting your sternum off the mat. So this isn't a curl up. We're not rounding the shoulders and looking between our knees. We're thinking about the chest lifting and how much. It's a tiny move, a couple of centimeters maybe. But your goal is to keep your pelvis into neutral. So as we lift your sternum, try and create that space between the low back and the mat. The head lifts, but just a tiny bit. Your goal is to keep the neutral pelvis. Where I'd like you to feel this is really low down in your tummy. Okay, low down. If your neck is feeling uncomfortable, please just support with your hands. So actually the neck should stay long, and it's the chest that is thinking about lifting up and down. Very small movement, very small, to get your, and I always call it your deep onion muscles. Because if you think about an onion and the layers of the onion, we're working on the center, that, you know, that little bit, when you peel all the layers off, you've got that little core bit of the onion. That's where we're working. So it is engaged into the low part of the tummy here. This is a really good way for you to actually understand how to engage your core. Core is not abs on the outside. Core is inside. It is your core. Yeah. This time, we move on from that, but the movement, the feeling needs to stay the same. So as we exhale this time, we're going to keep the chest still, but lift one leg. Now, as you lift the leg, the knee's going to come so it's over the hip. This is called a single knee fold. And we're looking for the thigh bone to be completely vertical to the ceiling. The knee is bent. The shin is parallel to the ceiling. The leg, the hip bone, is heavy in the socket. There should be no movement through the pelvis. You should be able to keep that neutral, keeping that core nice and tight, not doming up through any of the tummy muscles. Placing the leg down, we go to the other side. So your inhale and your exhale, drawing that leg up. And we pause the same as we did the other side. We assess and see what's going on. We check that we're really happy in that neutral position and we're not holding our breath. We can breathe through this. We can keep that control, and then coming down. We then lift the other knee, so you stay with that. Otherwise, we pause. We make sure we can maintain that neutral pelvis. We're going to take one hand on top of the rib cage. Okay, so spread those fingers, feel the ribs, and the other hand you're going to bring down between your belly button and your pubic bone. As we exhale, we'll lift the other leg. There should be no change under the hands. If there is change, you come to singles. We drop the first leg with control. We drop the second leg. We bring up the other leg first. So we inhale, we exhale, we draw up, we pause, we take the other leg up. There's no movement between the hands. We drop first leg and second leg on an exhale. Keep going with that. So I want you to feel like you understand your body and the level that is right for you for this. Otherwise, I'm going to start adding on. So if you feel that is okay for you, in that double knee fold, we still move one leg at a time, but we end up with two legs to the sky. We'll take the hands away and we'll come into a curl up. So this time we're reaching, we're holding the hands away from the mat. We're pausing, we're seeing if we can assess this breathing here, keeping that core nice and tight still. Otherwise, you continue with those knee folds. From here, we pump the arms as though we're reaching through water. We pump hard through the arms. We keep our breath going. We inhale for 5. We exhale for 5. This is your Pilates 100. Reach through those arms. Your eye gaze is looking between your thighs. You can take your head down. You can come to a single knee fold. You can take both legs down, head down. You can lay on your back, but I need you to keep those arms pumping. You're working movement to breath. Yeah, you choose, keep that core nice and tight. Really pump those arms, get that blood flow going through your body. Reaching. So we inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. I know, it's tough. It's tough. Keep pumping even if you need to make that alternative. We go for another 10. And exhale for last time. Taking head and shoulders down to mat, bringing your knees into your chest. And making sure that you did actually breathe through that whole thing. Bringing the feet now down to the mat, opening the arms wide to a T shape. We open the legs nice and wide, so the feet are wider than your mat. We let the knees roll all the way over to one side. So both knees will come one side, legs are wide, just getting some mobility into the hips. We roll the other side. Moving and stretching. Keep this fluid now. Maybe the eye gaze comes to the opposite side as we roll the knees away from you, rolling the head away. Just feeling the movement, feeling that inside knee coming closer to the floor each time. As you work on really mobilizing the ball and socket joint of the hip. Loosening off through the glutes, the inner thighs, the groin area, the hip flexors, so top of thigh. Pushing that top knee away from you now, keeping those shoulders and hands glued to mat. Rolling all the way over, placing your hands down, finding that tabletop position again. So from here, we tuck our toes, we come back to that down dog. So sink your weight backwards, we push the hips nice and high. And then we walk to front of mat. Doesn't matter which way the front is. We inhale, we reach those arms up. This time, exhale, place your hands on your hips, hinge your body weight forwards. So soft bend through your knees, let the weight sink into your heels, belly button, round the shoulders back. We lift up through one heel, challenge your balance. See if you can take the weight onto one foot. Step that foot that's up backwards with a long lunge. Okay, so however you get to this is totally fine. Spread the front foot out to the side a little bit so you have a bit of a wider stance. You're up onto the back of the big toes, just mind you don't slip if you've got socks on. And the front knee, we're looking for the front knee to be over the ankle, not over the toes. So adjust where you need to, step in if you need to. Try and bring the back hip around for me and tuck that pelvis under. We're going to sink down a little bit, bending that back knee. We inhale to reach up. So this is your yoga crescent lunge. Reaching up, pushing through the front heel, keeping the back glute squeezed, and maybe you can take your eye gaze up to the ceiling. We're going to sweep those hands around as we come down and frame the front foot with the hands. Okay, frame the front foot. Let's move forwards and backwards. If you're onto fingertips, that's absolutely fine too. If this is too much for you to be down this low, then put the weight onto the thigh. Just watch your knee coming forwards towards your toes. Okay, so we rock forwards and backwards, but I need it only to be a small movement, so we don't really want to be pushing loads of weight into the ball of foot. Just a small movement trying to work through this hip. Change the hands so they're inside that front foot and turn the front foot now out to 45 degrees, placing the back knee down. Move that front knee out to the side and in. Just bring your front foot further forwards, Gail. Yeah. Move that front knee out, roll out onto the side of the foot. And then this is where your block can come in handy. So please grab one if you need it, just to elevate through your hands. Pushing up through the back foot. So the knee is lifted. We see if we can hover that foot and push ourselves back to our down dog. So we can do the same on the other side, walk forward to front of mat. Coming up, hands to hips, soft bend into the knees. Taking that weight onto one foot as we lift the heel. Seeing if you can balance. Taking the leg back into that long lunge. Just get that however you need to. If you're mat slipping, just do this on the floor. Pushing through the toes, lifting up through the back heel and reach. Try and squeeze your back bottom cheek to bring that hip around. We reach, we create that space through fingers and hips. Placing the hands down to frame the foot. Just rocking forwards and backwards. Placing the back knee down if you need to. Just bringing a bit of warmth into the hip, into that front thigh. Opening the hips. Placing the hands now inside that front foot and turning the front foot out to a 45-degree angle. Dropping the back knee and just moving that knee in and out to the side. Just feeling the hip open. Just moving into the hip flexor of the back. So top of the thigh of the back leg and into the groin area and into the glute of the front leg. Coming around, framing that, keeping the hands in, pushing through foot, seeing if you can just hover to take that leg to your down dog. You'll either roll forward, so you'll go knees, chest, chin and lower yourself down to the mat, or we roll up onto the balls of our feet and roll into a plank position. So if you need to look, I'm going to do it again. So from down dog, we'll come onto the balls of the feet, we'll roll and push into a plank position. Otherwise, you go knees, chest, chin, and lower down to the floor. We take the hands away this time, we tuck the feet. Forehead down to the mat and palms up down to our sides as though we're like an arrow. We pull our navel up to the ceiling and we lengthen our legs. We engage our legs. We keep our eye gaze looking down to the mat and we are as long and strong as we possibly can. Fingers are pulling down. Remember that Pilates 100. We wrapped those arms around and we stretched. This time we lift both legs as we really squeeze our bottom cheeks together. Keep looking down to the mat. You can hover the hands and you can lift a little bit higher only if that feels okay. Your core should be really active here. You should not feel this in your low back. You absolutely should not feel this. If you do, you lower your legs down and you just think about the breath. We take the hands down, we lower the legs down, and we reach one heel up to our bottom. Keep the hands down to the mat. We change the leg. We reach. Hands are down by the side of the shoulders. Reach that heel to your bottom. See if you can hover those legs now and kick one heel to bottom. Maybe you can hover your head slightly off the mat, and maybe you can hover your hands. We're working on the strength through the posterior chain of our body. So squeezing your glutes, pushing those hips down into the mat, using the hands to support you, or imagining you've got a drawing pin digging in your belly and you're pulling away from it. Keep changing, keeping those hips as still as you can. Eye gaze down, hands down, or hovering. We take both legs long, we tuck the toes, and we push. We take our tailbone back, finding our child's pose. This time, our tops of feet are flat. Walking the hands away from you, letting your head come down through the gap, rounding through your spine. Finding that length between tailbone and fingers. Taking these few breaths, letting your body actually release, trying to let the muscles in your back relax. Maybe your breath got a little bit shortened, so now you'll try and lengthen that breath. Finding this stillness is as important as finding movement and strength. Inhale now and start to move up really slowly. Slow movements to bring yourself onto your side. And laying on our side, we create ourselves in a torpedo position. So see if you can make yourself as long as you can, stacking your hips on top of each other, stacking your shoulders on top of each other, and a little engagement through your inner thighs. Seeing if you can hover your legs. We're squeezing our thigh bones to be externally rotated. So try and imagine that your knees are turning away from each other. Use your top hand for support and your ear to your bicep of the bottom hand. Keeping those legs nice and long, you may find you need to have the bottom leg down, or you can have both legs up. We lift the top leg and bring it back down. We exhale to lift, keeping as still as you can. Inhale down. Try and imagine now you've got a grate underneath the side of your body. Nice pointed toes, turning those knees out to the ceiling, really feeling this into the outer hip. Doesn't have to be a big lift. You can even bend the bottom knee, but create length through the leg. So try not to have that leg shortening, really pulling that leg out from the hip. Last one, exhaling to lift. Inhaling to come down. Taking the top hand now, bending the bottom knee and giving yourself a little bit of a pat around that top glute. Rolling over to your back. Bringing that ankle to your knee. Either staying here with the foot on the floor or reaching through the gap, through the hole in the middle and holding onto the opposite thigh and drawing that leg in towards you. The leg we've just worked. So good question. Yep. So the glute that we've just worked will be the foot that's coming on top. Okay, so you're stretching out through that glute. It's absolutely fine to keep the foot on the floor and pushing that knee out to the side as well. Head can stay down or lift. So you'll be holding onto the other leg. So it'll be through the gap, holding onto the other leg. Rolling now onto the opposite side to repeat. We find that torpedo. Lengthening your body away. If you do only have a really thin mat, it can feel quite uncomfortable through the hips with this. So you know what's coming. Lengthen away. Hovering. And then that top leg lifts and lowers as we aim to keep that stability and that balance through the core, through that pelvic area, breathing out as you lift the leg. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. Remember that top leg can come down if it needs to. You're aiming to keep that grape underneath your side and lengthen the limbs, keeping these movements as controlled as you can. In Pilates, we always look at about 8 repetitions of each, but we keep that time under tension. So we always have that time where we are moving and building that strength, but not building size. We build strength, not size. Last one. Rolling onto your back. Once again, the leg that you've just been working, the ankle will come onto the knee. You either keep the foot down or you push that knee out to the side. We reach through the gap if that's an option for you. Just flexing the foot, making sure there's no knee pain. Really externally rotating through that hip. Getting that deep stretch into the glute, into the inner glute. One of the stretches that I do recommend that people do pretty much daily, this one. Releasing that foot, bringing soles of feet to floor now, ankles together, arms out to the side in a wide T, and then letting the knees fall apart. So touching the soles of feet together, letting the knees fall apart. If it's too much and it feels uncomfortable, then support the weight of the thighs with the hands. Feeling a sensation. We're only ever looking for sensations in the inner thighs, around the groin area. And just be. Tuck the tailbone, slowly bring those knees up. Helping hands if you need to on the side of thighs. Bringing one knee into your chest now. You can either hold onto the back of the thigh or the shin, making sure there's no uncomfortable sensations through the knee. Pulling that knee in nice and tight to the chest. Then shuffling the other leg away from you. Shuffle the other leg away. Maybe the leg comes straight, maybe it doesn't. Keeping a soft bend into the knee. You could have two different stretches happening here, depending on your pelvic orientation. So you may feel this more into the back of the leg that you're pulling in, maybe into the bottom cheek or back of thigh sometimes, around the groin area. Or you could feel the long leg in the top of the hip. We take the opposite hand, so just listen to my cues, the opposite hand, we hold onto the side of the knee. So opposite hand, side of knee, we take same arm out to the side. Okay, so that's the same arm as the knee that is elevated. And then we roll away. So we pull the leg away from the body. We roll away from that long arm as we draw the leg across. Using that opposite hand as a counterbalance and keeping that shoulder blade down onto the floor. Only teasing that knee over as long as it feels comfy. Sensations is what we're looking for. Never above about a 7. Coming all the way back up, nice and controlled, and exchanging the legs to the other side. Hugging the knee into the chest first before we extend that other leg. And slowly creep that leg out to where is enough for you. Stretching. Opening the body. Holding shin or back of thigh. Avoiding tension around the neck, the jaw, the shoulders. Being aware that our body is not symmetrical, so you can feel this completely different from side to side. And that is okay. We go back to that twist. So the hand comes onto the outside of the thigh. We roll away, extending the opposite arm for that balance. Maybe one side feels tighter than the other. Maybe it's harder for you to keep the shoulder down on the mat. Embracing those feelings and never pushing. Rolling back up. Bringing your knees now into your chest, hugging yourself into a ball. And extending your arms and legs away, giving yourself a full body stretch. So stretch. Remember right at the beginning when we stretched and we reached up to the ceiling, try and lengthen your vertebrae. Really pull those thigh bones out the socket. Stretch, shrug the shoulders up to the ears. And release. Take the hands down by your sides. Bringing one foot flat on the floor, the second foot flat, and just bringing your knees together. Thinking about the back body, just relaxing down to the mat. And working on some breath here. Letting those knees knock together. Avoiding all tension of holding your body in a position. Try and let go. Think about back of head as it nestles into the mat, releasing through the jawline. The cheeks draw down to the mat. The chest broadens. We take our awareness to our breathing. We inhale deeply now through the nose. And exhaling either through nose or mouth. Continue with this breath as you listen to my voice. Imagining you're inflating a balloon every time you inhale, expanding your ribs, opening your chest, inflating your belly. Feel everything stretch, everything open. Feel the shoulder blades open and push into the mat. All of your internal muscles around your ribs, stretch them. Use your breath to do this. As you exhale, think of the opposite. Let everything release. Everything go. Everything relax. Each time you exhale, see if you can take that exhale that little bit longer. And inhale, making it deeper. Noticing the sensations that simple breath work will give you. We begin to work on our parasympathetic nervous system as we bring that focus internally and block out everything around us. You can choose to listen to my voice, listen to the music, or be free to listen to the sounds of your breath. Keep that long breath work going. Adjusting position, whichever works. But use this time to release. Make sure your mind is not wandering. You're going to be in this moment right now. Right here, right now. Every time that monkey mind tries to take you somewhere else, draw it back. Count the breath if you need to. Scan your body from each toe, each finger. Those areas that you feel tight. Let go. Hell, you deserve it. Honor your body, your muscles, your flesh, your bones. And feel good about yourself. Bring your awareness back into the surroundings, back to your breathing, creating that normal breath once again. releasing. Beginning to move your toes, jaw circle, move head from side to side, move knees, move hips, roll, yawn, stretch. Remember, it's your body. You know what it needs. Only when you feel ready, bringing yourself around up to a position that you feel comfortable, focusing or not focusing, your choice. Being used to being upright, just for those few breaths. And one last stretch. Reach up as tall as you can. Take your eye gaze up and bring your palms together down to your heart center. And traditional for yoga, we say namaste. So namaste. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. I loved every moment of that. So brilliant. Thank you so much for your support. Yeah, honestly, it's been truly magical. So thank you. And have a really lovely day. You all did absolutely brilliantly. I hope you feel like you've worked and relaxed at the same time. Yeah, so again, thank you to Gail, because she's been an absolute superstar. It wouldn't have happened without Gail. So we'll do it again tomorrow. So well done. Just from a COVID point of view, please don't congregate and be chatting close and face to face, but feel free to just stay and have a chat for a second. But thank you very much. Thank you. So thanks again. And